If you're working hard to build wealth, even if you're what I like to call a wealth building freshman, but you haven't protected it with proper estate planning, you might as well be building a house on quicksand, because one unexpected event could sink everything you've worked for. Do you know what happens every single year? Countless families miss out on opportunities to transfer wealth, and they lose their hard-earned assets due to poor estate planning. Most people think having a simple will is enough, or they get caught up on buying individual estate planning products without really understanding the outcomes that they need to achieve. Also, estate planning is not just about death. It's about becoming incapacitated too. Think about it. What happens to your assets if you're suddenly unable to manage them? Who takes care of your family? Who ensures that your legacy lives on? These aren't exactly dinner table conversations, I know, but they're crucial to building a financial future that can weather any storm. On this episode of Money Talks with Njideka, we're creating an estate plan that protects your hard-earned wealth and ensures your wishes are honored. Get ready to unlock the essential steps of estate planning, even if you're not a millionaire yet. Hi, I'm Njideka, a financial advisor here to help you navigate the complexities of estate planning and build a legacy that lasts. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Please drop a comment below with your burning questions about estate planning and share this video with your friends and family who need to hear this. All right, let's build a solid estate plan. So, estate planning is the process of getting your financial and personal affairs in order so that your loved ones are taken care of and your wishes are honored if you become incapacitated or pass away. It's about creating a plan for your assets, your health care, and your legacy. So let's talk about putting in place pillar number one, what I call the protection framework. Think of your estate like a precious family heirloom. You wouldn't leave it sitting on your front porch, would you? Of course not. You protect it, and that's exactly what you need to do with your entire estate. Let me give you one of the key concepts right up front. You don't need to own something to control it. In fact, and this might surprise you, not owning something directly can be your greatest protection. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say I had a client who was facing a $2 million liability claim. Because their assets were structured properly in a trust, guess what they would have ended up settling for? Less than $200,000. That is the power of proper asset protection. Now, let's break down exactly how to protect your assets in 4 key steps. And I know the estate plan can feel overwhelming, but I'm gonna make this super simple to follow. So step 1, create your liability protection shield. So before we even talk about estate planning tools, let's talk about protecting yourself from lawsuits. Here's a shocking statistic. The average American will face about 5 lawsuits or 5 legal challenges in their lifetime. Yes, 5. And here's the thing, the wealthier you are, the bigger target you become. So let me share another example of that with you, a real world example. Let's say you're driving and you get into an accident that causes serious injuries or even a fatality to somebody who makes a high income, some high income professional, let's say a 30-year-old physician who makes $1 million a year. Your basic insurance will not cover that kind of liability. We're talking about potential damages in the millions or even tens of millions. This is where smart asset protection comes in. So here's how you create your shield. Separate your high-risk assets from your low-risk assets. Next, for real estate investors, consider putting each property in its own LLC where it makes sense. Also, where it makes sense, consider an umbrella insurance policy as your first line of defense. Also, when it makes sense, consider using holding companies to consolidate your assets while maintaining the protection. Remember, the motto that I heard is, if you don't own it, they can't take it. And this leads perfectly into our next step. Step 2 is to set up your revocable living trust protection. Think of this as building your fortress. A revocable living trust is like a secure vault for your assets. But here's the beautiful part about it. You're still in complete control. You're the grantor, i.e. the person who created it, you're the trustee, i.e. the person that's managing it, and you're the beneficiary, i.e. the person that benefits from it during your lifetime. Why is this so powerful? Because if anything happens to you, whether temporary incapacity or death, your chosen successor trustees steps in immediately. Again, no courts, no delays, no probate process. It's seamless protection that works exactly when you need it. Step 3, master the control versus ownership strategy. Now, this is where most people miss a huge opportunity. You can control assets without having your name plastered all over public record. For example, your home could be owned by your trust while you maintain complete control over it. This is what we call security through obscurity, making it harder for potential creditors to even find your assets. Think of it like being the CEO of a company. You make all the decisions, but the company owns the assets. Same concept here. You're in charge, but your trust owns the assets. This simple shift in ownership can make a world of difference in you protecting your wealth. Step 4, and a lot of people miss this, but fund your trust. After you set it up, fund it. This is critical. Here's where many estate plans fail. They create a beautiful trust, but they never put anything in it. That's like buying a state-of-the-art safe, but you never put your valuables inside of it. So here are the things that you need to put in your trust. Real estate through proper deeding. You could put bank accounts. You could put a business as well. Now, there are also some exceptions. There are some things that you want to keep out of your trust. So you want to keep your IRAs out of your trust. Any 401ks, keep it out. Life insurance policies, keep it out. You can assign beneficiaries specifically to those accounts and to those policies, and that suffices for estate planning. So let's go into some action steps. Stuff that you can do this week. So 1, I want you to create a complete inventory of everything you own. Yes, everything. I want you to open your filing cabinet and list every account, property, and valuable asset. Just grab a piece of paper and start listing everything you own. Second action you can take is do a risk assessment. With that list of every asset that you own, I want you to categorize it as either a high risk or a low risk. So real estate, businesses, and vehicles are typically high risk. Investment accounts and bank accounts are typically low risk. Next action you can take, I want you to do an insurance review. So schedule a meeting with your insurance advisor or whomever you use to review your coverage. Make sure that it's enough coverage. Make sure that it's adequate coverage. Next action that you can take, think about your entity structures. If it makes sense, like I said before, consider working with an attorney to create the right entity structure for your situation. So this might include, again, LLCs for multiple real estate properties. It might include a holding company to manage multiple entities. It might include professional corporations if you're a business owner. Another action step that you can take once the trust is set up, like I said, is start the trust funding process. Take your inventory to your attorney or advisor and begin transferring those assets into your trust. This is called funding your trust. From there, set a calendar reminder for annual trust reviews. Things change. You buy new assets, you sell old ones, you might get married, you might get divorced, you might have additional children, so your trust needs to keep up. Even create a beneficiary designation spreadsheet. Review it every January. Why? Because financial institutions have a funny habit of losing beneficiary designations during mergers, for example. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. That's your homework. But to be honest, protection is just the beginning. So now let's talk about pillar number 2, the continuity shield. This is one of the most overlooked yet crucial pillars. Let me share a story that perfectly illustrates why this is important. So let's say I had a client named Sarah who had everything you think you need. She had a trust. She had life insurance policies. She even had LLCs. But let's say that things took an unforeseen turn and Sarah ended up having a stroke. It's at this point that her family discovered they couldn't access her online bill pay, they couldn't find her insurance policies, and they had no idea what her wishes were for long-term care. Yes, her documents were perfect, but her plan was still incomplete. Think of your continuity shield like a backup generator for your entire life. When the main power goes out, you need systems that kick in automatically. So let's break that down into 3 critical components. Component number 1, incapacity protection. Statistics show that there's a 50% chance that you'll need long-term care after age 60. And without proper planning, guess what happens? A court conservatorship will kick in. Think Wendy Williams, if you guys know anything about her situation. She is under conservatorship, even though she is a grown woman. These are the things that you'll need in order to address this. You'll need a durable power of attorney for finances. That is a document. You'll need a medical power of attorney for healthcare. You'll need a HIPAA release for medical information. You'll need a living will for end-of-life choices. And you may just need other specific instructions in your trust about care preferences. For example, an advanced health directive. So remember Sarah? Had she included specific instructions like, I want to stay in my home as long as feasible, or use my assets to hire an in-home care before considering a facility, her family would have known exactly what to do. Component number 2, the digital life bridge. In today's world, your digital life is just as important as your physical assets. Think about it. What happens to your online banking and bill payments, your email accounts, your social media, your investment accounts, your subscription services, your password managers, your digital photos and documents? All those things would need to be accounted for as well. Component number 3 of this pillar is the professional support team. Here's something most advisors won't tell you. Your family should not be handling this alone. So consider building a team. So whether that is a private fiduciary, meaning somebody that's licensed and bonded, or maybe a care manager in the case that you need care, or other key advices around things like finances, legal, and tax. And you might not need all of them, but figure out which ones you do need and begin to build that team. The time to do it is now, not during a crisis. So start working with them before you need them. And here's a pro tip. Why not create a break the glass in case of an emergency type of folder, both for physical and digital assets? So this will contain everything your helpers need if you're suddenly unavailable. And you could test it yearly by having your successor trustee try to locate it and access everything that they need. Now, with all of that in place, to bring our final pillar home, let me tell you about two hypothetical families that will hopefully give you some perspective about how to think about legacy planning. Now, the Johnsons and the Wilsons both had similar wealth building journeys, similar sized families, and both had solid estate plans on paper. But 5 years after the parents passed away, one family was stronger than ever, while the other wasn't even speaking to each other. The difference? It wasn't their legal documents or tax planning. It was how they approached the human side of their legacy. Let me show you how to do this right. Welcome to the final pillar number 3, the legacy blueprint. This is probably our most skipped pillar, and I think I know why. Because this is where things can get really interesting. You see, estate planning isn't just about passing down money. It's about passing down your values, your wisdom, and your family harmony. Think about it. What good is leaving wealth if your heirs don't know how to manage it or use it in line with your values? So let's break this down into a couple of key components. For pillar number 3, let's start with component number 1, the living trust foundation. You want to tailor this to your family's needs. So think of your living trust like building a custom home. It's the basic foundation. The basic foundation is similar, but the layout and features need to match your family's specific situation. So beyond a revocable living trust, let me show you how this works. Let's say that you're in a second marriage with children from a previous relationship, meaning you have a blended family. You want to provide for your current spouse while ensuring that your children's inheritance is protected as well. Well, there's a specific trust for that, and this is how you would structure it. You would separate trust shares for your spouse and for your children. You may also want to include a lifetime right to occupy the family home for the surviving spouse. You may also want to define clear distribution timelines to prevent any conflicts. And you may also want to include some protections for future remarriage. Now, let's say you have a child with special needs. There's another trust that's specific to those provisions. Because for that child, you might want to preserve government benefits eligibility. You might want to ensure quality of life support. You might want to appoint specialized trustees who understand their special needs. And you might want to create flexibility when it comes to distribution standards for their changing needs. Let's say that you have a family business. Well, there's another trust for that. So things that might be specific to that trust may include a gradual transition of control. It might include buy-sell provisions. It might include a management succession plan. It might even include provisions for non-involved children. And the list goes on. Whether you want to make charitable donations, whether you want your wealth to skip generations, or even if you have special instructions for dependent adult children, there's a trust for almost every need that you may have. Next for this pillar is just the family communication. We spend so much time planning our estate, but oftentimes forget the most important part, which is actually talking to our family about it. And honestly, this is where most estate plans either fail or succeed. So remember the two families from earlier? Well, let's just say the Wilsons had perfect documents, but never talked about them. The Johnsons make communication a priority. Clearly, the families who thrive after wealth transfer aren't necessarily the ones with the most sophisticated trusts. They're the ones who communicate the best. So with that said, let me share a better way to handle communication. Step 1, write your family a love letter. Like literally, before you do anything else, sit down and just write a letter to your family. Think of it as a heart-to-heart conversation on paper. No legal jargon, no fancy terms, just you talking to your loved ones about whether it's, hey, here's why I made these choices, or these are my dreams for you all, or let me tell you about our family's journey, or yes, I know some of these decisions might surprise you, but here's why I made them. Next, schedule individual meeting dates. Trust me on this. Don't start with a big formal family meeting. That's like jumping into the deep end before you even learn to swim. Instead, grab lunch or coffee with each family member individually. You want a game plan, so make it casual because this doesn't have to be a business meeting. Let them do most of the talking and ask things like, what worries you the most? What are your hopes for our family? And then jot down those notes after the meeting, but not during, okay? Because nobody likes to feel like they're being interviewed. Also, just keep it under an hour. Leave them wanting more, okay? Not checking their watch. Finally, to wrap up family communication, we got the family roundtable. So this should be the fun part, right? It brings everybody together. You can think about it like a family dinner with a purpose. So you can meet biannually, you can meet annually, maybe on a holiday. Keep notes, because people always remember things differently, and then share any updates about what's happening with your estate. Make it a learning experience. Maybe even bring in experts occasionally. Be sure to have a clear way to make family decisions. No free-for-all. And finally, feel free to have your family meet the team. Remember when you were a kid and your parents introduced you to important adults in their life? Well, the same idea is here. Your family needs to know who to call when they need help. Show everyone where you keep the important stuff, and make sure there's a backup plan for when advisors retire. Remember, this isn't about creating some formal corporate structure. It's about bringing your family closer together while making sure that everyone's on the same page. Keep it simple, keep it real, and most importantly, keep it going. So what's your takeaway today? Estate planning is an essential part of financial planning, and it isn't just for the wealthy. It's for anyone who wants to protect their assets, provide for their loved ones, and leave a lasting legacy. So don't wait to take action until it's too late. Take action today and create a plan that gives you peace of mind and ensures that your wishes are honored. In fact, I challenge you to get started on the first pillar within the next 30 to 90 days. So recently, I co-hosted a special 60-minute webinar called Your Legacy by Design, an Estate Planning Blueprint. If you click the link in the description below, you can get access to it absolutely free. And you can get that estate plan started ASAP. So again, if you found value in today's video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and notification bell. Every week I share strategies just like these to help you protect and grow your family's finances for generations to come. Remember, the biggest regret I hear from families isn't about starting too early, it's about waiting too long. So let's get your legacy plan started right. I'll see you on the next episode.